Good morning. It has been quite a time since I've been able to be with you. Jane and I, in July, celebrated 27 years at being at Shepherd Community, and so we have raised our family, and now they're out. Our son, Jeremy, I think someone said he had spoke here when he was still with us. He left and went to be a missionary with the Church of the Nazarene in West Africa, and now is at Trevecca, where he is on staff running a center there, but also on staff at Trevecca Community Church. He and Ritu have 3 kids, Zane, who's 5, Ruby, who is 3, and Kavya, who's 1. And our second child, Jenna and Edson Solores, they both worked at Shepherd, and then she has stayed home. They have Noah, who is 3, and Camilla, who is 7 months. Yeah, I'm good. I always have to look to confirm. And then our youngest, Jill, and her husband, Ryan, he is the youth pastor at Newcastle First Church. She's the children's pastor. They have 4 kids, Clayton and Peyton, who they were able to foster for 3.5 years, and in June they were able to adopt. Clayton is 7, Peyton is 5, Travis is 2, and Maeve is 9 months. Yeah, so we have 9 grandkids. It's great. I like to say that grandchildren is God's way of making up us having to live through middle school with our kids. And so we're blessed. And these are exciting days in the life of the ministry of Shepherd Community. I want to give you an update, and then I'll be sharing with you just a little bit out of Matthew 5. But Shepherd has 6 areas of focus, and so I'm just going to go through and give you some updates. First of all, thank you. I saw in your bulletin that you're the canned meat church. That's a special designation. Recently, we were speaking at the cereal church, which is Shelbyville, and they collected 1,000 boxes of cereal. And it was like heaven to me because there was Lucky Charms in there, and I didn't need any, but we've joked over the years as that has grown, and that's a huge help for us. Food continues to be one of our main ways to connect to our neighbors. We have a food pantry where we're helping on Saturday mornings. It's run by our neighbors. We average about 75 folks, families coming through each Saturday. We deliver to about 150 or 160 homes every week. These are for senior adults who can't get out or for folks who are sick. Jane and I have done that for about 2 years. I was injured this summer in a fall and I can't lift, so I haven't been able to do that, but that's a special thing. We were calling some of our folks who have become like family to us that we would deliver to. And so good. That's a great way. We've learned a lot on front porches as we talk to our neighbors. We also are partnering with Gleaners, where we do every other week. We do a drive-through food distribution. We're averaging about 240 families who come through that. Every weekend, kids take home food packs to eat on the weekends. We put things in there like fruit cups and granola bars. I try to get them to put Pop-Tarts in there. I think Pop-Tarts are healthy. Well, they're fruit, and the crust is grain, and then the frosting is dairy. It's like the food pyramid right there in that little package. Yeah, the sound guy's back there going, yeah, he likes that. I love Pop-Tarts, but we probably try not to give too much sugar to the kids. But that's making sure the kids, on a given week, we're going to work on a daily basis with about 325 kids. And so food is an important way for us to help stabilize and connect with our families. A second area that we work with is in health. And so through the month of October, every Wednesday, we've been doing a drive-through or a walk-up flu vaccine clinic, and we're averaging about 30 to 35 folks. We also go to some of the senior housing in the neighborhood and do them during the day. And so we've done multiple. We've worked with the State Department of Health, and we did a childhood vaccine for back to school. We gave 126 vaccines to children. The parents were excited, the kids were not. There was this one little guy, he got like 5 or 6 vaccines. He was not in a good mood, and he was not appreciative, and he was letting everyone know it. But that's a practical way for us. And something new that we're starting is a medical transport where we will help our families and our neighbors get to their appointments. It is a huge challenge in the neighborhood, and we want to be able to use this as another opportunity for us to make friends with our neighbors and to assist them and then help them if they need to go get their prescriptions filled and other items. A third one that we are working slowly on is housing. That's just a huge crisis. There's not enough houses, and so we work in a variety of ways with our neighbors. We have 2 houses that we've purchased and families are living in, and they're on their way to purchase them back from us as they get their credit improved, that they can go get a traditional mortgage. We have a house that we're renovating, a little behind schedule, but we'll eventually have a family be able to move into that. And next year, we're partnering with Habitat to build 2 homes in our neighborhood, and we will culminate, and it's a single mom in one and then a single lady in the other, the week of General Assembly. We'll finish it those weeks, and they'll be able to move into their homes. And we're looking long-term at trying to build affordable apartments in our neighborhood. There's just not enough housing. And so for many of our families, it's a huge challenge. We have a team that's called the Neighborhood Engagement Team, and their whole job is to connect. I like to say we're all Legos created for connection. Different shapes, different sizes, different colors, but we're made to connect. And how many of you have ever stepped on a Lego at some point in time and you say, oh, thank you, child, for leaving that there for me to step on? A Lego by itself you could do very little with. But when you connect, you can build beautiful things, and that's how God created us. Just an interesting statistic, there are 60 Legos for every person in the world. That's a lot of Legos. And my wife will say to me, and why do you know this? I read, and they just celebrated the 90th anniversary of Legos being built. And if you took one from the original year that they were built, and you took one now, they connect just the same. And it is for us too, isn't it? That God has made us to connect. Loneliness is the epidemic that's ravaging our neighborhood. And we see it in so many ways. I was having lunch with 2 of our IMPD district commanders, and they were just challenged and frustrated by all of the violence, and you see it and you read about it, and you know it comes down to this: if people don't think anyone cares about them, they don't care about themselves. And it's really the church. We're not going to police our way out of this. It's really on us as Christians to connect. 31% of Americans know who their neighbors are. How can we love them if we don't know their names? And God has called us to love our neighbors. And our neighborhood engagement team is out there connecting, talking to them, following up when they're in a crisis, helping them navigate through. And so it is for us, while we are focused on this at Shepherd, it is really all of our jobs. We have a thing called a Paraclete program. And I don't like to refer to it as a program because it's really just about us caring. Paraclete is the Greek word used for the Holy Spirit in the New Testament. It means the one who comes alongside to help carry the load. And that is what we're trying to do. And so Jane and I have those Paracletes, our neighbors who've become like family to us, who we're checking in on and calling and following up and doing things that we want to do to show them that they matter. But there are a lot of folks in the neighborhood who go months without hearing from anyone. And it is for us as the church to love our neighbors and to make those connections. We have a relatively newer program. Our workforce development has morphed into what we call E2E, Educate to Employment. And we've partnered with a place called O'Brien Toyota. Anyone heard of O'Brien Toyota? Yeah. And some of our young high school students from Arsenal Tech High School, we were able to introduced them to O'Brien Toyota, and they were hired and they're working, and we're helping put together a fund so that they can purchase their tools that they need, and they're getting able to go to Ivy Tech to become certified Toyota mechanics. We have folks who, we feel like we have to start younger. With adults, in 2021, we helped about 57 folks get jobs. We want to take this and say, okay, how do we help high school students? And if I ask, many of you would say your first job was in middle school or in high school. In 7th grade, there in Dayton, Ohio, where Jane and I grew up. She grew up in Tip City, Ohio. I grew up in Dayton. I delivered the morning newspaper. I had to get up at 4:30. I didn't like getting up at 4:30, but I learned a valuable lesson. If I waited till 5:20 when my dad got up, that meant I had to run the paper out. I don't like running. So I learned, it was incentivized, right? I played baseball, so I only had to run 90 feet. I was not going to sleep in. I would get up so I could do my 100 houses. I learned valuable lessons by those jobs I had. I delivered morning newspapers from 7th grade till 11th grade, and then I went to work as a janitor, cleaning doctors' offices and banks at night. Helped paid my way through college. When Jane and I started dating in college there at Wright State University, I was working as a janitor, and we'd go out on a date, and then I'd have to take her home so I could get to go clean. There was valuable lessons, and we want to help our students. And so we're helping them either start their own business, help them do internships, or working part-time. And so we are connecting them to employers in the neighborhood. We had a couple of them that had internships at One America this summer, and we're going to keep building on that, helping them find what is their area of interest, what is it that makes them where they want to explore their career. We have 28 in college that we're helping and staying in contact with, and we're excited about that. Taylor University there in Upland provides 6 scholarships every year for us. And so many of our students have been able to explore. We have a great partnership with Ivy Tech, and helping them figure out, do they want to go to the trades? Do they want to get a certificate? Do they want to go on to college? So for us, helping them start into that workforce is going to be so critical. And finally, and I know this because we've been working on our budgets, this is our highest area of concentration, and that's education. We believe this mantra that we say, grow capacity to reduce dependency, and the greatest way we can do that is to help them make sure that they have a good education. So we have, besides having our own, we now have a child care center on Sherman between Michigan and New York. And it's in an old IPS school that was renovated. There's senior housing in the back, and then we run a child care center in the front. We're helping little guys start ready so that when they start into elementary school, they start well. We have our preschool. We have a school there at Shepherd, but we also have staff working at IPS School 58. We have staff working at Harshman Middle School, at Arsenal Tech High School, and at Purdue Polytech. So where we're embedding them, we run the after-school program at School 58, helping those kids recognize that they can do great things. And so we have worked hard. So as I said, about 315, 320 probably kids on a daily basis. We test our kids to see where they're at. Just a little over a year and a half ago, our kids tested 47% were reading at grade level. We, this past year, tested again, and we're at 73%. We have a reading specialist. We have 2 ELL teachers. We have a full-time tutor. We're trying to immerse ourselves to help our neighborhood. We want every kid in our neighborhood to do well wherever they go to school. And so we're trying to make resources available. We opened a library, a branch library of the Indianapolis-Marion County Public Library inside of Shepherd. And so you can check out books, and how many of you loved libraries when you were a kid? Yeah, I loved it. I read all the time, and my wife was the same way, and we talk about the books we read. I read every Hardy Boys, and I've read a lot. I love Tolkien, and I love C.S. Lewis, and these great authors, and we want our kids to have the same access. And so our students, whether they're in the school or in the after-school time, any family in our neighborhood can get a library card in our partnership, and they're able to be able to have resources. Many times, poverty in Indianapolis is not the lack of resource, it's the lack of access. Is there enough food in Indiana for everyone to eat? Yeah. Is there great quality education? Yes. Is there great quality medical services? Yes. But not everyone has access to that, and we want to help bridge that. We also created what we call a STEM lab. And a STEM lab is the science and math, and so we have 3D printers, and we have what they call a Glowforge, which to me looks like the old wood-burning kits. And we have these electric things that my brothers and I used to shock each other with that you can build. And so it is exciting, but we want to make our kids have the access and the interest in these types of things. And so education is where we spend the most amount of our money. The majority of our staff, we now have about 105 on staff, and feel very blessed on how God has continued to grow what we're doing and to work very intently on helping grow the capacity of our neighbors so that we can reduce their dependency. And the way where we build that foundation is with education. The other areas, really the food and the health and the housing and the neighborhood engagement helps build the foundation. It stabilizes our neighbors so that our workforce and our education can help move them forward. We hear some tremendous stories, and we want our kids to know, and our families, that there's a God who loves them, and there's a God who created them. And what he said in Jeremiah, I know the plans I have for you, plans for you to succeed and prosper when you follow me with your whole heart, is true for them as well. And so we want to flesh out Jesus for them. And so that's a little bit of what we're doing at Shepherd Community. And we're continuing to look at new ways and ways we can do things differently. But also, who can we be partnering with and working with? And we had some meetings Friday with the principal at the local high school and saying, okay, what else can we do to help you with your challenges, and how do we help you accomplish what we do? Because it's our job to help them succeed as well, right? And we're the church. You know, during COVID, they said that the church wasn't essential. And that was an indictment of us. Because maybe we've not demonstrated that. And we want to be found essential. We want to say the Church of the Nazarene and what we're doing is so important on the Near East Side that we're changing that neighborhood and we're investing in hundreds of lives. We're excited. We're coming up to the holidays, and for fall break, we send every kid home with a box of food, and we'll do special Thanksgiving baskets, and then we'll deliver meals on Thanksgiving Day, and then we go into the Christmas season, and that's fun. We have our big Christmas store. And last year, we helped over 1,200 families provide Christmas to their families. And we still had stuff left over, and so the blessings is if we are able to receive items for our Christmas store and they're left over, we have partners who come from all over, from West Virginia, from Kentucky, from throughout Indianapolis, and we want to make sure that those gifts are going to go bless kids at Christmas season. And so we're excited as we go into those times. And we're excited that you're going to be the canned meat church. That's a very practical way for us, but hunger is an unfortunate reality. We all are feeling the crunch of inflation, right? It's impacting all of us. And I joke, I can remember a time when you opened the cereal box. There was cereal in it. Now you open the cereal and it's like, hello, it echoes in there. There's just so little. Shrinkflation is, I think, the term, but we're all being impacted about that. And so we appreciate that you would think of helping us in a very practical way like that. So that's a quick overview. I want to share with you something. Matthew 5, it's called what? The Beatitudes. Jesus is teaching. And it's a little radical at the time, right? I just want to look at one word in the beginning of the Beatitudes. He says, blessed. Or blessed. Blessed. The Greek word there is makarios. It means to live above the problem you're going through. It's the peace that comes even when you have storms of life. Blessed when you're poor in spirit. You have peace when you're mourning. He goes through these, and I find it very interesting that God has promised us this makarios. In the times there with the Jewish culture, if you were sick, they would say, well, what'd you do wrong? If you were poor, they would say, what's your family done? God is punishing you. But here he's saying, when you have these things, you can still have peace. It's counterintuitive because society said it was cursed, and he's saying you're blessed. Even today. People will say, well, if you're having these kinds of problems, God must be punishing you. What did you do? And God's saying to all of us, yes, we're going to have sickness. Yes, we're going to have COVID. Yes, we're going to have cancer. Yes, we're fill in the blanks. And he says, you can be blessed. Blessed. To live in peace amidst the storms of life. It's not the absence of problems, it's the promise of his presence amidst those problems. As you were singing today, we can go to Jesus, right? There's an opposite to that, and we see that in the world today. The word, it's a French psychological term called anomie. A-N-O-M-I-E. It is the visceral response when you lose your foundation. It's that flailing. Maybe you can remember this. Your child is on the side of the pool and they jump into you, right? And they scratch you because they think you're going to drop them. Another picture, a word picture, might be that person in the ocean who's drowning and someone swims out to help them, and what do? They drown them both. You're just flailing because you've lost your foundation, your anchor. Jane and I, for the last 10 years, we've been able to represent the Church of the Nazarene in U.S. and Canada for Compassionate Ministries. And we were at a tremendous ministry there in eastern Kentucky in Martin County. And I was to preach that day, and this quartet was there, and they sang a song, The Anchor Holds. It was a beautiful song. All of a sudden, the altar's filled. And so it was a beautiful time, and people started going back. And so the quartet sang one more time, and the anchor holds. And guess what? The altar's filled again. And a third time, and the pastor comes over and he goes, Jay, I'm sorry. I'll get you up soon. I'm saying, no. Don't worry. The Holy Spirit's moving. The world is desperate for that anchor. As I was sharing with those two district commanders last week at lunch for IMPD, I said, the challenge you're facing, we're not going to be able to deal with a batch. The world is desperate for an anchor. They're desperate to have that blessed life, right? To have that peace. We live at a interesting time in our history. It took 4 generations to go from agrarian, from the farming world, to industrial. And it's taken 1 generation to go to AI. How many of you feel like, Jane, my wife will say, I was born in the wrong time. I was reading to her that they opened a Taco Bell that has no employees. It's all robots. in Minnesota. And I said, well, at least you get what you order. And Jane said, but who do you complain to? You go through, you pay on your phone, you go up, you go to the next window, and in 2.5 minutes you get your order. We live in a crazy time of technology, right? How many of you have ever been, Jane and I will be talking, and all of a sudden an ad will pop up on the phone. Like, are they listening? Yeah. It's an interesting time, but it's a time of great stress. And so we see enemy, we see it in our political world, we see it in our businesses, we see it in our communities. We sure see it in the Near East Side of Indianapolis. We see young people who don't feel like anyone cares. And I want you to know that you can have the blessed life. The blessed life amidst the storms. You say, Jay, how's that possible? How could I have that life? And it comes from a very interesting chapter. I really encourage you to read Exodus 3. It's God's call on Moses. And it's so interesting. But in Exodus 3:19, he says, oh, Moses, everything you try won't work, but my mighty hand will move. Here's the good news. Shepherd community, we're trying to break the cycle of poverty, build capacity to reduce dependency, but it's bigger than us. We could exhaust ourselves trying to stop the violence, to build more houses, to deal with all these, but we only have to depend on the God of the universe, who says, my mighty hand will move. I don't know what it is that you're dealing with today, but God does. And what he wants you to know, you can be blessed. When we submit our lives to him, he says, I'll never leave you or forsake you. This is the message I was talking to last night. Jane and I had called some of our friends in the neighborhood, and I called one, and his name's Mike. Mike's dying of cancer. Last Easter, his wife died of cancer. We've had the privilege of leading them to Christ, baptizing him. And he was sharing with it, and he said, over his right eye, it says, feel my pain. That's a tattoo right there. He's got tats all over him. He's become a very good friend. And the day on Easter when he called me to tell me about Diana's passing, I said, God feels your pain. And he said last night, the cancer's spreading. He's made the decision not to fight anymore, no more treatments. He says, I know God's with me. Yeah. He feels whatever you're feeling. He's present with you. I don't know how you live this life apart from Jesus Christ. The challenges and the brokenness. Our son-in-law will do a funeral this week for his cousin's 9-year-old who died yesterday. I've done funerals for children. Maybe you have. That's hard. There's brokenness there, pain and hurt. And maybe you're feeling some pain and hurt today, and I want you to know you can be blessed. The message for us in our neighborhood there at Shepherd Community is there's a God who will go through all of this with you. You are never alone. I'm thankful for that. Pastor, come.